If I had a son and he was at one of his darkest moments of his life, or even if I was to look at my younger self, this is what you'd need to hear. I know you're tired. I know the weight you're carrying feels unbearable, and all you'd really like is a moment of relief. A lot of people are going to tell you to imagine what it feels like at the end. That once you're past this, it will all make sense and it will feel better. But I know that you can't hear me over the voices in your head telling you to quit, that it's pointless. And I can't take those voices out of your head. I can't make it feel better as much as you'd like me to. And maybe you keep this inside because you feel like nobody is listening. And I'll be honest, they probably are hearing you, but not many people are going to really listen or understand. And why would they? They're not the ones carrying this. Even though they might describe something similar, doesn't take the fact that you're the one who has to get past this. But that's exactly why, if anybody can get past this, you. Because there is no way I've seen you overcome and conquer everything so far for you to quit now. For this to be the end of your story. Because I know who you really are. You're a fighter, you're a leader. And very few people understand that. You're the one paving the path, making it easier for others. You carry the heaviest weight so that they can be light on their feet. That's what leaders do. So I know it feels like a massive mountain in front of you. But you have to keep shoveling. You have to keep shoveling if you want me to shovel too. You have to stay in this fight, not because you don't want to quit, but because people are only going to fight next to you if you keep fighting too. The thing is, whilst you're digging this tunnel, I guess, it's not a case of people don't want to see you or hear you, understand you. It's that it's only once you're past it, once you see the light, that's when people can actually hear you. That's when people at the end of your tunnel, also on the other side, will understand exactly what you've been through. Now, why do men struggle alone? Now, here's the truth. Men don't just break, they disconnect from purpose, from direction, from meaning. Like, what do most people say when they're struggling? Like, what's the point? That's why. And the world tells them to talk about their feelings, but that's not a real solution. It's treating a symptom, not the actual problem. Let me ask you something if you're not quite following what I'm saying. If your sister or your girlfriend or your mother said she doesn't feel safe walking the streets at night, are you going to say, let's talk about it and make sure you feel okay with that? Or are you going to make sure the streets are safer by whatever means necessary? Right. So why do we tell men who are suffering to just talk about it? The reality of the world is that most people just aren't listening. And even if it's easy to say, just talk about how you're feeling, but when sometimes you say how you're feeling, people aren't like, they're not going to absorb that. I remember a moment when I was with Great British Bobsleigh when an athlete on a different national team asked me, why are you so mellow? And I very distinctly remember thinking like, oh, this is nice, because actually a lot of the time the conversation I wasn't that interested in as much as I talk a lot of shit online, and I'm very goofy in person. Like maybe I'm not as reserved as I think. I don't know, but I wasn't talking much on these trips, and I got asked this question. I remember saying I'm really grateful, having been through my life, that I'm here and enjoying this moment. And I think about that every moment, and I want to be present. And then there was a silence, and then they start talking about something else. And I remember thinking about that situation, like, why are you wasting my time and my words? Like, you're going to ask me a question where I'm actually telling you how I feel about something and you're disregarding it. So that's the issue with just opening up and talking about it, is actually not everybody's safe. And having spoken to probably like thousands of people now through my experiences, traveling the world with bobsleigh, through American football at so many different teams, personal training, probably 6 million people in Coventry. The main thing that I'm hearing is people aren't listening. People aren't understanding one another. And actually, most people aren't safe to tell how you actually feel about things. But that moment I experienced during bobsleigh made me realize that people only understand the language of pain that they speak. And if they don't speak yours, they can't actually hear you. If men don't feel safe, they're probably not going to talk about their feelings that much. And to be honest, guys, I don't think guys want to talk about their feelings that much. I mean, sometimes they do and they feel better in the moment, but again, it doesn't solve the problem, which is people aren't listening. What actually works for men who are struggling with their mental health? Because I believe, again, this is just from my experiences, discussions, and what worked for me, is that actually what men need is not to always talk about their feelings and the symptom of pain and feel better briefly and then go back to feeling sad. It's to solve the problems we're facing. Men don't really bond over spilling their emotions in a circle. Men bond over shared struggle, through mission, through purpose, through action. And if you ever want to get out of that hole, to be honest, no one is coming to save you. But you don't need saving. You need a mission. You need a purpose. You need something to make sense of the difficulty that you're going through. You need to find something bigger than yourself, a reason to keep pushing forward, because life doesn't get any easier, I don't think. Let me know if it does. It just seems like the problems get bigger as we get older. So find a purpose, find an impact you want to have in this world. Whatever it might be, decide it and start moving towards it. Like if you're not in service in some way, if you're not genuinely helping people, you're probably not going to feel very fulfilled. You're just serving yourself and your emotions. The second thing men need to do is lead, even when nobody's listening or anybody's watching. Because if you're making things easier for the person behind you in whatever you decide it to be, you're going to be valuable. And if you are valuable, you'll be respected. And really, that's what men want. Men want to be respected. Men want to feel powerful. We don't want to have a pity party in a circle. And through that, by being in service, the suffering will make sense. But the thing is, you can't lead in a direction if you don't have that vision. And I had that lesson myself. I had this experience myself where I had a very close friend who I was working with, and I thought we had a similar mission in what we were doing, in what we were trying to accomplish. And every now and again, very consistently asked me, because I was, I guess, more senior than him at the time, is he'd ask, like, what's the vision? What's the 5-year plan? Like, where is this going? And at the time, I did not realize that's what I needed to lead people, is to know exactly where things are going. Even if it's wrong, I need to commit to something and decide where to go, and then stick with it for a little bit. But you can always change course slightly, but if you don't know where you're going, the ship's just going in circles. And the last thing that's very easy to do is to know that the right people are going to find you. Like if you move towards your mission and your purpose, all of a sudden dominoes will start falling and you'll find people will be like, oh, you're doing this? Well, I actually know someone. One thing I always said when I was going through a difficult time in my life to myself that really helped was like, I don't need to be happy to have a good life. Like they're not synonymous with one another. I don't know what changed, but somewhere along the line, I stopped worrying about that because I was thinking that for years. So I would say focus on living a good life, and I definitely have a lot more moments of happiness now. The thing that happens is once you've fought for long enough, once you've built yourself, all of a sudden that's when people start listening to you. Like, putting this out, I don't even know if anyone's going to give a shit about me talking about it, because it's once you have a certain level of achievement, that's when people start listening to you. That's when people are like, oh, actually, this is a very valid point. And to be honest, if one person watches this and decides they need a mission and a purpose, and they want to change their lives, and they feel lost and disconnected, and I help that person to see it, then I'm happy. I've done my job. I've had the impact I want to have. So if you are in a dark place, you cannot sit there waiting for someone to save you, for someone to hear you. You have to stand up. You have to build yourself into someone that is unignorable. And the thing is, you probably can't even see that vision right now. So just take one step, one move forward, even if it's getting out of bed that day versus laying in bed the whole day. That's one step forward. Make a to-do list, put one thing on it, tick that off. And that's one step forward, one move forward in building you into someone. Because the world doesn't listen to victims, it listens to the survivors. If this hit home, share this with someone.